We didn't plan to be the last two awake. It just happened. One minute the apartment was loud and crowded and vibrating with bad pop music, and the next it was quiet enough that I could hear the hum of the fridge and the faint ringing in my ears. Someone had killed the playlist. Someone else had passed out in one of the bedrooms. A couple people left without saying goodbye. And somehow, without any discussion or decision, it ended up being just Noah and me in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the same couch like we were pretending this wasn't exactly where the night had been drifting. I remember thinking I should stand up, get water, say I was tired. Anything normal. Instead, I sank deeper into the cushions. The couch was small. That was the problem. One of those stylish but impractical ones that look good in photos and punish you when you actually try to sit like a human. Our shoulders weren't touching, but they were close enough that I was aware of the space between us. Close enough that it felt intentional. Noah leaned back, head tipped against the wall, eyes closed. His sleeves were pushed up, forearms relaxed, hands loose in his lap. He looked wrecked in that soft way. Post-party tired, buzzed but not sloppy. Honest, maybe. Or just unguarded. "You good?" he asked, eyes still closed. "Yeah," I said too quickly. Then, after a beat, "Just tired." He let out a quiet breath that sounded like a laugh without the effort. Same. Silence settled again. Not awkward. Heavy. I took a sip of my drink and immediately regretted it. Warm. Flat. Useless. I set it on the coffee table and stared at my hands instead. I was very aware of my own body, how my leg had drifted closer to his, how my shoulders felt tight, how the alcohol had smoothed the edges off thoughts I usually kept locked down. "You ever notice," Noah said slowly, "how things get weird when everyone else leaves?" I looked at him. He'd opened his eyes now, just slightly, gaze unfocused but aimed in my direction. "Weird how?" he shrugged. "Like, this is when the real conversations are supposed to happen. Or when you realize you've been avoiding them." That landed harder than it should have. I swallowed. "You avoiding something?" His mouth twitched. "Aren't we all?" Another stretch of quiet. I could hear my heartbeat. Or maybe that was just the alcohol making me dramatic. I shifted, trying to get comfortable, and my knee brushed his. Just barely. Enough that it could have been an accident. Enough that neither of us reacted. Except neither of us moved away. Noah's gaze sharpened a little. Not startled. Just present. "Sorry," I said, even though I didn't move my leg. "It's fine," he replied, and his knee stayed right where it was. The room felt smaller. Warmer. Like the air had thickened, without asking permission. He sat up a bit, rolling his shoulders like he was trying to work out tension. "Can I say something kind of uncomfortable?" I laughed quietly, more nervous than amused. Given the night, that feels on brand. He looked at me then. Really looked. I'm tired of pretending I don't notice things. My chest tightened. "What things?" He didn't answer right away. Just studied my face like he was checking for exits. "The way you go quiet when it's just us. The way you watch me and then look away like you didn't mean to." My first instinct was to deny it. Reflex. Years of practice. Instead, I exhaled. "Yeah," I said softly. "I noticed too." His shoulders dropped, like something heavy had just been set down between us. "Good," he murmured, "because I'm bad at lying when I'm this tired." We sat there, knees still touching now, no longer pretending it wasn't deliberate. The alcohol hummed low in my blood, but this felt sharper than that. Clearer. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling, forcing myself to breathe. "I don't know what we're doing," I said. Noah nodded. "Me neither." "But we stopped pretending," I added. A quiet smile pulled at his mouth. "Yeah, we did. We didn't touch beyond that. Not yet. We just stayed there, two exhausted men on a too small couch, letting the truth settle into the space between us. And somehow, that felt like enough for the moment. The thing about stopping pretending is that once you do it, you can't go back to the comfortable silence you were hiding behind. Every sound suddenly means something. Every shift of weight feels loaded. Noah reached for the remote and turned the TV on, volume low, some half-forgotten movie washing blue light across the room. Neither of us watched it. It just gave our hands something to do, something to pretend we were focusing on. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked, casual on the surface, but his thumb worried at the edge of the remote like it mattered too much. I shook my head. "No, I just don't want to mess this up." He looked over, really looked. "You think this is fragile?" I considered it. The years of jokes, the group hangouts, the unspoken glances I'd trained myself not to linger on. "I think we are," I said, "but that doesn't mean it's bad." He nodded slowly, like that was something he'd needed to hear. The movie kept playing. Someone on screen laughed too loudly. In the reflection of the TV, I could see Noah watching me instead. Not hungry, not aggressive, just attentive, like he'd finally allowed himself to look. I kept telling myself it was just comfort. He said, "You know, you're easy to be around. You listen. You don't disappear when things get quiet." My throat tightened. And now? And now I'm realizing I don't do this with anyone else. He hesitated. "I don't want to." My hand moved before I fully decided to let it. It rested on the cushion between us, palm up, not touching him, just available. He noticed. Of course he did. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Noah's fingers slid into mine, warm and tentative, like he was checking whether I'd pull away. I didn't. The contact sent a low, steady current through me, not fireworks. Something deeper, settling. We stayed like that, hands joined loosely, shoulders angled closer now. I could smell his cologne mixed with alcohol and something unmistakably him. Familiar and suddenly new. "This isn't how I imagined it," he said quietly. I smiled. "Me neither." "But I like it," he added. So did I. Eventually, the tiredness caught up with us again. The kind that makes honesty easier. Because you don't have the energy to perform anymore. Noah shifted, stretching his arm along the back of the couch, not pulling me in, just creating space. An invitation, not a demand. I leaned into it, my head resting against his shoulder. He exhaled, slow and steady, and let his arms settle around me like it had always known where it belonged. We didn't talk after that. The movie ended without either of us noticing. The city outside went quieter. My thoughts did too. Lying there, half curled against him, I realized something that surprised me with how calm it felt. This wasn't a confession night. Or a mistake night. It was just two tired men choosing not to lie anymore. And as sleep started to pull at me, wrapped in the steady warmth of his presence, I knew this was only the beginning, but not in a rushed way. More like a door opening softly and staying open. I woke up first, disoriented in that quiet early morning way where your body knows more than your brain does. The light was different, pale and indirect, slipping in through the blinds and cutting the room into soft stripes. For a second I forgot where I was. Then I felt it. Noah's arm was still around me. Loose, not possessive, warm in a way that felt earned. My head rested against his chest now, instead of his shoulder, his breathing slow and even beneath my ear. At some point in the night, we'd shifted without fully waking, gravity doing what honesty had started. I stayed still, not out of fear, out of respect for the moment. The couch creaked softly when I breathed too deep. The apartment smelled like stale alcohol and clean laundry, and something domestic that didn't belong to either of us individually. It belonged to the space we'd made by accident. Noah stirred. Just a little. His fingers flexed once against my arm like his body was checking in before his mind caught up. "Hey," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Hey," I said back, just as quiet. He didn't move right away. Then his eyes opened, unfocused at first, then settling on me. There was a brief flicker. Assessment, maybe, but no panic, just recognition. "Did we?" he started. I nodded. "Yeah. Okay." He exhaled, slow. "Good." We stayed like that, longer than necessary. Long enough for the moment to lose its edge and become something gentler. Eventually, Noah shifted his arm, not pulling away, just adjusting so we were both sitting more upright. "I don't regret this," he said, like it was something he needed to say out loud. "Me neither." He smiled at that, small and real. "I was worried you'd wake up and pretend it didn't happen." "I thought about it," I admitted. "Old habits." He huffed a quiet laugh. "Yeah, same." The morning stretched. No dramatic declarations. No sudden need to define anything. We talked about stupid things instead. Who had taken the last beer, how bad the movie actually was, the way the couch tried to swallow you if you sat wrong. It felt important that we could do that the air between us wasn't fragile. At one point, he reached out and brushed his thumb against my knuckles. Casual. Familiar. My chest tightened anyway. "So," he said carefully, "what happens now?" I considered the question, not just answering it, feeling it. "I think we keep not pretending," I said, "but we don't rush." Noah nodded. "I can do that." "Me too." He stood to stretch, arms over his head, shirt lifting just enough to be distracting. I looked away on instinct, then laughed at myself. "See?" I said. "Still learning." He caught my expression and smiled, softer this time. "We've got time." When he left an hour later, it wasn't awkward. No long pause at the door. Just a hug, full, grounding, and a quiet, "Text me later." "I will," I said. After he was gone, the apartment felt different, not emptier, just changed, like furniture had been rearranged while I slept. I sat back on the couch, fingers tracing the spot where he'd been, and let the feeling settle. No fireworks, no fear, just the steady awareness that something honest had begun, and that was enough for now. The next few days were quieter than I expected. Not awkward, quiet, more like recalibrating. Noah and I texted, but not constantly. Check-ins, dry humor, a meme here, a "how's your day?" there. It felt intentional, like we were both resisting the urge to either overcorrect or disappear. What surprised me most was how calm I felt. No spiraling. No replaying every second of that night like evidence in a trial. Just a low, steady awareness that something had shifted and that I didn't need to force it into meaning yet. We didn't talk about the couch, or the hands, or the way waking up wrapped around each other had felt dangerously right. Until Thursday. He texted around 9. "Noah, you busy?" "Me. Just me and a frozen pizza." "Why?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, "Noah, can I come over?" "Not for anything dramatic. I just don't want to be alone tonight." That honesty did something to me. No performance. No excuse. Me, yeah, come by. He showed up 20 minutes later, hair still damp from a shower, hoodie soft and familiar looking, like it had lived a life before this moment. He kicked off his shoes like he belonged there. Or maybe like he was hoping to. We sat at the kitchen counter, splitting the pizza, talking about nothing and everything. Work stress. A mutual friend's breakup. How exhausting it is to keep explaining yourself to people who already decided who you are. "I'm tired," he said at one point, rubbing his face. Not like sleepy, just tired. "I know," I said. And I did. Later, back on the couch. Because of course, we didn't keep as much space this time. His leg pressed against mine. My arm rested along the back without thinking too hard about it. Familiarity was already sneaking in, gentle and dangerous. "I keep waiting for the moment where this gets weird," he admitted. "And?" I asked. He glanced at me. "Hasn't happened yet." I smiled. Same. There was a pause. Not tense. Expectant, maybe. Noah turned toward me fully, elbow braced against the cushion. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. The question was quiet. Careful. Like he was offering me the steering wheel. "Yeah," I said. "You can." He leaned in slowly, giving me time to change my mind. I didn't. The kiss was unhurried, a soft meeting of mouths that felt more like confirmation than ignition. No rush, no grabbing, just presence. When we pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "Still okay?" he murmured. "Yeah." I breathed. "Still good." We didn't go further than that. Not because we couldn't, because neither of us needed to. The kiss lingered in the space between us, warm and grounding, like something we could come back to. Later, when he left, there was another hug. Longer this time. His hand pressed briefly into my back before he pulled away. "Thanks for tonight," he said. "Anytime," I replied, and I meant it. After the door closed, I didn't feel hollow. I felt steady, like we were building something slow enough to trust. And as I cleaned up the kitchen, humming to myself without realizing it, I understood something new. We weren't stuck together anymore. We were choosing each other. The first time we went out together, really out, not as part of a group, I felt more nervous than I had any right to be. It was just coffee, late afternoon, a place halfway between our apartments that neither of us had strong opinions about. Neutral ground. Still, I got there early. I watched the door like I was waiting for a job interview instead of a man I already knew. The familiar version of him, the one from parties and group chats, felt distant now, replaced by something quieter, more intentional. Someone I didn't want to disappoint. When Noah walked in, scanning the room until he spotted me, his face changed in that subtle way that makes your chest tighten before you even understand why. Not a big smile. Just relief. "Hey," he said, shrugging off his jacket. "Hey," I replied, standing without thinking. We hugged, quick but real, the kind that says, "Cree, we're doing this without making a scene." We talked easily. Work. Family. A vacation he'd been putting off for years because it never felt like the right time. I told him about my habit of leaving cabinet doors open, which he teased me about like it was a moral failing. "You do that," he said. "I've noticed." "Stalker." "Observer," he corrected. At one point, he reached across the table and wiped a bit of foam from my lip with his thumb, then froze, like he wasn't sure if he'd crossed a line. I didn't pull away. "Sorry," he said automatically. "Don't," I replied. That was nice. Something softened in his expression, like tension easing out of a long-held breath. After coffee, we walked. No destination, just letting the afternoon stretch. Our hands brushed, separated, brushed again. Eventually, his fingers laced with mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I'm bad at labels," he admitted as we crossed the street. "They make me feel like I'm rushing something." "I don't need one," I said. "I just need honesty." He squeezed my hand once. That I can do. The weeks after that settled into a rhythm that felt almost domestic. Dinners that turned into long conversations. Lazy Sundays. Inside jokes no one else would ever understand. We didn't announce anything. We didn't need to. People noticed anyway. "About time," a friend muttered one night, watching us from across the room. I pretended not to hear it. Noah just smiled into his drink. One evening, lying side by side on my bed, fully clothed, legs tangled without effort, he turned his head toward me. "I used to think honesty was dangerous," he said quietly. "Like if I said the wrong thing, everything would fall apart. And now I think pretending was worse." I rolled onto my side to face him, tracing the seam of his sleeve with my finger. "I'm glad we got stuck that night." He smiled, slow and fond. "Me too. We didn't rush anything after that. We didn't need to. What we were building felt solid precisely because it wasn't loud. Because it chose patience over urgency." And as I lay there, listening to his breathing even out beside me, it occurred to me that this quiet, this closeness, was the kind of thing people spend years trying to fake. We weren't faking anything anymore. The first real test came quietly, the way most important things do. Not with a fight or a confession, but with a room full of people and nowhere to hide. It was a friend's birthday. Crowded bar, too loud, too many bodies pressed together. The kind of place where you usually rely on distraction to keep things easy. Noah and I arrived together without talking about it, which felt like a decision in itself. At first, nothing changed. We laughed, shouted over the music, took turns buying drinks, but I noticed how Noah stayed close. Not hovering, just aligned. When someone bumped into me, his hand found the small of my back automatically, steadying, grounding. A guy from his work showed up. Loud. Curious. The kind of friendly that borders on invasive after a couple drinks. "So," the guy said, grinning at Noah. "You and Oliver finally, eh?" The sentence trailed off, loaded. I felt it, that old instinct to step back, to make things easier for everyone else. To disappear just enough. Before I could move, Noah spoke. Calm. Clear. "Yeah," he said. "We did. No qualifiers. No jokes. Just truth." The guy blinked, then laughed awkwardly and drifted away. Noah turned to me like nothing unusual had happened. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah, just thanks." He leaned in, voice low so only I could hear. I'm done pretending. Something in me settled permanently at that. Later, outside, the night air cool against our flushed skin, I finally let it out. That meant more than you think. He looked genuinely surprised. "Why?" "Because you didn't hesitate," I said. "You didn't check my face first." He took my hand, thumb brushing slow circles against my knuckle. "I don't want to live like everything important needs permission." We stood there for a while, watching people smoke and laugh and stumble past, the city alive and indifferent around us. It felt strange, realizing how little we needed that noise anymore. That night ended at my place again. Shoes kicked off, jackets tossed aside. Familiar, but charged in a new way. We moved carefully, not out of fear, but respect, checking in without words, reading each other's breathing, the way hands lingered or didn't. When we finally kissed, deeper this time, it felt earned, still slow, still intentional. We didn't rush past what mattered. After, we lay tangled together, limbs heavy, the room quiet except for our breathing. Noah traced idle patterns on my arm, like he was memorizing something he didn't want to forget. "I used to think love was supposed to feel like panic," he said softly. "Like you were always one step from losing it." I turned my head toward him. "And now?" "And now it feels like this," he replied. "Like staying." The word echoed in my chest. We didn't make promises. We didn't need to. The shape of us was already clear enough. As sleep pulled us under, his arm secure around me, I realized the truth I hadn't dared name before. This wasn't just about honesty anymore. This was about choosing each other, again and again, without an audience, and that choice felt steady enough to last. The morning it finally felt real wasn't dramatic. No announcement, no sudden clarity, just sunlight through the curtains and Noah in my kitchen, barefoot, reading the back of a cereal box like it held secrets. "You know this has like 12 ingredients I can't pronounce," he said. "Adds character," I replied, watching him over the rim of my mug. He smiled at that. Easy, unguarded, and something in my chest settled for good. This wasn't borrowed time anymore. This was routine forming in real time. We moved into each other's spaces without ceremony. A toothbrush here, an extra hoodie there. He started leaving his book on my nightstand. I stopped pretending his presence wasn't what I planned my evenings around. No one labeled it, but everyone knew. The night we talked about it, really talked, it happened the way everything with us did. Quiet, honest, necessary. We were back on the couch, not because it mattered, but because that's where it began. The TV was off. The city hummed outside. Noah sat with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped loosely, not nervous, just thoughtful. "I don't want to disappear into this," he said, "or rush it so hard we lose ourselves." I nodded. "I don't want to make it smaller just to keep it safe." He looked at me then, something steady and resolved in his eyes. "Then let's just be clear with each other, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then," I said. We sealed it with a kiss that felt different from the others. Not tentative, not electric, grounded, like a promise made without words. Time did what it always does. It tested us in small, ordinary ways. Missed calls, bad days, moments where old instincts tried to creep back in. But every time, we chose the harder thing. We talked, we stayed, we didn't pretend. One evening, weeks later, we hosted a small dinner. Friends crowded my living room, laughing, arguing about music, stealing bites from the stove. At some point, I realized Noah was behind me, arms around my waist, chin resting against my shoulder like it had always belonged there. No one commented. No one needed to. Later, after everyone left and the apartment felt quiet again, we stood at the sink together, washing dishes side by side. My reflection caught his, soft, content, real. "You know," he said, handing me a plate, "we never really talked about what to call this." I set the plate down, turned to face him. "Do we need to?" He thought for a second, then shook his head. "No, I just wanted to make sure we're still choosing it." I stepped closer, resting my forehead against his. "I am." He smiled, small and certain. "Me too." That night, lying together, the city breathing beyond the windows, I understood something that felt almost too simple to name. We didn't fall into this because we were stuck. We stayed because we were honest. And that honesty, quiet, unflashy, real, was the kind of love that didn't need an ending to feel complete.